So welcome. There's a really mixed audience here, I see. It's always strange to talk about your work, especially when it's recorded or taped while, so it has the impression as if it has more value towards it. It's kind of strange. Yeah, I will start reading a text and go on with some excerpts of a film work I did recently. I would kindly invite you to also interrupt me with questions if there is anything you can't hold back until the end. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. I start now. I started at your neck and first put the plaster bandages in a crisscross over your shoulders. Now your tattoo was veiled in a white net. I continuously moistened the bandages with a bottle spray to ensure their flexibility and adhesive quality, to later be stiffened with another layer of plaster. You had gotten brown bottle spray before for precisely that purpose. I went on over your back and continued to cover your skin in a crossing pattern with the wet bandages and smoothed any folds and wrinkles by stroking over them with my flat hands. After I had covered all the required body parts with the bandages, I mixed the plaster with water in a black plastic can. I was experienced in estimating the right amount of plaster in order to the right amount of water in relation for the compound to be thick and creamy. Then I poured the first round of plaster on you. It was cold and viscous, and I knew I would have to work quickly to make sure it wouldn't set before I was finished. I began to sweat. During the whole time, we didn't speak much. I told you to stay still or ask you if you were okay. And you advised me logistically, saying what body part should be treated next. When I was almost finished, your back and ass were covered in a white, thick layer that was completely hard and made it impossible for you to move anymore. A couple of weeks later, I had a meeting. The woman I was going to work for said she looked horrible today because she had been drinking the night before. She wore a red shirt and a black skirt that went just over her knees. She was 15 minutes late, and I had waited there for 5. I ordered a double espresso. The waitress was young and I hadn't seen her before. I drank the espresso in 2 or 3 sips in order to wake myself up. The problem is not how to think better. The problem is how to think. Think the unthinkable. Later that day, I watched a documentary. Former trainers were interviewed, and most of them showed regret and distress about the captivity of killer whales. One woman said, "I'm embarrassed about certain things that I believed back then. The blue square nourishes me, the other one punishes me. Stalking, stabbing, my voyeuristic tendencies seem to aggravate as I grow older." You asked me if I was experienced. I was experienced in estimating the right amount of plaster in order to the right amount of water in relation for the what is compound to be thick and creamy. This was an excerpt of a text that is the narrative of my recent work, Rage. This work is mainly based on language. It's made for 4 to 8 performers and for a duration of 2 to 4 hours, and was first shown in a gallery space in Munich. This was Rage 1, and then was shown in a different variation in Basel, the listed performance program. The text was written by Lida Bourgogne, who entitled it The Cast, and deals with, as well as the piece deals with, the theme of submission and dominance in really fine aspect. The pieces, like my other works, mainly build up as an image that durates over the time that it's emerging. What is important to me is that, like embedded in the title, that the variation of the pieces, like the constant changes, are from the beginning when the piece is being made is inside. So with the Rage piece, in difference to my older works, the working process was a bit different because I was working on it alone since I'm working on it since a year, since I'm in Paris. So studio practice in this work and performative practice and work with the others, like it's a good example to show you a bit like of this, what I think of in terms of a body of work that's not really body, but consistent out of pieces and different medias. One part of this body of work is a video piece I made for an exhibition in Nîmes in October. This was shot during 4 days, which is originally kind of the time I used with the others for building up a performance piece. It's 4 days to the next one will be a bit longer because it's like a new piece and a bigger commission. It was shot in the middle of Paris. There's a disused railway line that contains one of the entries in the catacomb system underneath Paris. I chose this place because it has a strange kind of aesthetic towards it. You will see in the video, and it was important to me that as in the performance piece, the video piece contains fragments and movements of the performative piece. Like there are movements inside, you will see, but it has this different time zone towards it. I'm really interested in stretching the normal event character of a performance piece to 2 or 4 hours. So it's kind of, or even go over the opening times of an institution. So these pieces are sometimes only stand for themselves and are presented and are adapt to the conditions of an institution or to the conditions of money or of availability of the performers that I work with. But I'm interested in merging them, but not merging them one into each other, like take fragments, put them all together, but putting them right next to each other, like let them be different, but let them touch each other like hard cuts in the video. So the first time I did this was in Francesca Pia's gallery in Zurich with a performance piece of School of the Seven Bells, and like a beginning of a version of a language-based piece, which then evolved into being the Rage piece. And so we could have 2 rooms together because the gallery spaces are quite huge, and one white space and one space that was enlightened with natrium lamps. So I always dreamt of doing a performance piece that looks as if it was black and white. So these natrium lamps take away the color of clothing or whatever. So, and they give a like yellowish light on top of everything. And what I did in Francesca Pia's space, that was an exhibition curated by a young curator from Switzerland, Jean Graf, is that I used one of the elements that occurs in Rage later as a structural element, which is a choir. The choirs are not sung choirs, as you might expect, but choirs that are with spoken language, that are built on a technique of the Ars Nova. That's a choir technique out of the early Renaissance that was first invented in churches, or first brought up, shown in churches, and it was soon after forbidden because it made the believing crowds too passionate about what was going on in real life. So I've invented, with a composer I work with, I invented this really rigid structure that is based on these elements, because there's a melody that's repeated over and over. So we chose a sentence that was repeated over and over, and then chose this to make an abstraction to the words, and chose another method of overlaying sentences to make it even more sound like a schizophrenic head that is talking. I used this element again in the Rage performance to structure the whole piece. So there's a repetition inside and there's a repetition outside, and there's sometimes a repetition even of the whole piece. So this is kind of what I'm interested in, is also to show the difference of a repetition, because it can never be one and another. What I will do now is show you an excerpt of the video, and afterwards you can ask questions, and then go on with a few images of the body of work that's connected to it. Oh, wrong file. I'm sorry. So this is an excerpt. The whole piece is 16 minutes long, and it's very slow. So is there some?
Do you remember how to put it in?
Yeah, I remember.
No, it's there.
Can we switch up the lights?
Jürgen, kannst du vielleicht das Licht ausmachen?
Okay, thank you for seeing this. As you can see, I mean, for a lecture it's kind of a hard stretch to show 10 minutes, but also in my performative pieces, I think the images deal a lot with, how can I get out of here? Deal a lot with this moment of potency, where there's something happening which is not really strong movement. There's no, how do you say it? There's no climax in the whole thing. There's always this feeling it could happen something. All of the movements are worked on very detailed. Sometimes you can't even rather see what is going on, but you feel it in a way. So there are choreographies, for example, for the gazes of the performers. There's always like a distance that we take towards the audience, which creates more than a closeness than it creates a distance in a way. The space is sometimes parted into slices because we're having these diagonals in terms of following a line with our eyes that we decide to be in the room. So, or to have a kind of a peripheral shoulder view with an audience member, but it's kind of a participation that's not direct, that's a lot works over seeing an image. And then, of course, if you're in a situation over such a long time, for me it's very important that this gives also a kind of an enclosed space where the performers can act in. The work with the other performers I don't cast usually, so if they have any special things, like Billy is an amazing composer, for example, or I will write an excerpt of a text that one of the performers wrote for another piece of mine, Aqualeo, that is a lawyer basically. So of course there are all influences come into the pieces, or it's interesting to work this way because there's a lot like coming from my side, from very basic things. Also in terms of the movement, there are things like crouching, things like sitting, standing. It's not even that I would say that there's a complicated way of like developing movements, but they all derive from a certain idea of, in this case, of, for example, penetration or status or dominance, or like holding on to something to stretch time in terms of not moving in a way, or like behaving against the time of the others that rush. It's like it's that I'm pretty serious about this work together moment, because it's a very sincere experience in a way, and what interests me is to build up a piece with it. Like it's about this figure of an artist, or the artist as a person that I understand myself as, but that I also like the idea of erasing it, and I would fight for this idea, because it's like I'm very serious about what I say in these performance pieces, but it's also shared. It's a shared seriousness, and therefore it has more pressure, or therefore it can grow to something, and it builds itself up. I think also this variations, because it's changing in time. There are reference systems in between the fields the others are in, and I'm really, it's really great to work this way. The other thing is that I wanted to speak about the language, which is not visible in the film. And about the film, like the camera movement, which is really important to me. I worked with a camera woman, Nadine Fratschkowski, who is able to kind of move the camera like if it was a Steadicam, but so this narrative that it creates to have this subjective camera perspective was very important to me in this, in making this film. The film was made without a script. For example, we performed directly on sites. I didn't direct while filming, so the takes are really long, as you can see. And I didn't cut the takes either when it was not necessary. So it's a 60 minutes film. The first image you saw, the white image, was the figure of the deliverer in the film, like a figure that moves in between, that is looking inside the picture, that has an inside but not the very inside, that gives the time in a way that everybody's waiting. So this, with Raj, it's the first time that I invented a character, which interested me in terms of a character that knows about how to bend over, but that is not doing it, basically, that has a kind of elegance that derives also from a clandestine feeling or an appearance that I used within the movements of my work that I also showed at Francesca Pia's gallery, the SOTSB, the School of the Seven Bells, which works really differently. But this is kind of a figure I'm really interested in, also in terms of thinking about it, because it's kind of the figure that contains all the language without speaking, in a way. Because it always starts in the choirs, but it does not end the choirs. The choir's repetitional sentences are one time lower the horizons, all the horizons, and the other time at this site, what color has fever, which I kind of abstract and poetic and a bit dumb if you say it like this, but if you repeat it over and over and the sentences that are overlay mix up, it feels like one like head that is speaking, which I think was good to work with. Then there's a mode of an alphabet, which is not complete. So there's B Dobi language, H horizontal, I vertical, O ho, which is repeated in different areas within the piece. I will now go on showing you, and then of course there are sentences that also come from the narrative, which are you experienced, or another sentence would be, we're so serious about it, without anything happening, basically, what we could be serious about. What I go on with is showing you a few images of this performance, but I will make it short. It was the one in Basel. These are... Okay, are there any questions as I see the images to the film, or should we go on? By the way, what do you think? I try to get this into Diashow. No, it's this one. Cool. Okay. I want to go to the beginning because this is an image that was done in one of the performance pieces. I will now like scroll through the images. Basically, this was the piece I showed at the gallery space in Munich. What's in this piece important is there's a lot of liquid going on. There's this Buttermilch that is floating around. There are these cans of panache, which is a mixture in between lemonade and beer, and they are like poured out during the piece. So the act of pouring was kind of important. There's a scene in the film work where one of the characters, I only worked with a women performance out of this piece, is pouring Buttermilch into a fountain in Paris, or into several fountains. So it's like the mixture in between the colors and the liquids that flow together. It's kind of important. These are images of the of the production stills of the film. This is space in Paris called the Petit Ceinture. As I said, also these underground streets were rather inspiring for me. They go through all Paris, and even the biggest boulevards are like have an equivalent down there. Most of the movements I chose for this are like in between self-caressing and punishing movements. So there's the idea of the whole that occurs in the images and in the text fragments and instructions I gave for this piece. This is the Rage 2 that was shown in Basel. There's a lot of crouching going on in this performance. It's the main movement. In a way, detailed crouching in all variations. You can see this lake of Buttermilch in the back. If you have any questions, please interrupt. This piece is built of duets and solos, basically, that are within the end that more and more are built up in axis towards the audience. So, was a former duet is replaced with a solo, but is done in distance to the audience. This was the invitation for the show, because now there will follow a few images of the body of work. I connect to this Rage image, and it's a photograph I did in 2004. So. This is one of the main movements of this piece, like a double S curve. During this movement, the hips lower, lower, lower to the floor, and then the whole body goes to the floor, but it's in balance movement. And all the images also you saw in the video are all guided. It's not that I would do something in slow motion. They're all very slow. So these are works. This is a study of rage I did in Paris. So a lot of these drawings and photographs come before and come after. So there is no script before or an instruction or something. It's more that these works come before, after, and while producing. This is a work I made for this show, which is called Unten, Unten, Unten Hollow Whale. It's a bassin filled with buttermilch with a tongue sticking out, and a kind of a pump in the end. So there are these cans of buttermilch that pump buttermilch in the bassin. That was built up in the garden of the gallery space. There's a detail. What I liked was the surface, and also, of course, this is why I'm showing you this, because there are reference systems in between the works, and I think you already know this when you mix, like when you see when you are in an exhibition as a visitor and you walk around, and there are so many reference systems, what the people are doing inside the space, what's happening with the artworks, and with the performance pieces, I really like how it's all connected with each other, and so are like real life experiences connected to each other, and decisions you make aesthetically as an artist are derived from very basic and everyday habitual things, I think, and then thoughts come that might be not your thoughts, but thoughts of someone who died already, or you see. For example, one of the most influential things for the Rage performance was the toothbrush as an everyday instrument that you use for cleaning your teeth. That is simultaneously, if you look at it, one like an everyday penetration you do to yourself. And what if the toothbrush was fixed and not your and not your body. So, like, these were things I was thinking about. Another piece called Fountain. With text fragments of the Rage performance inside the camps instead of Bhutanese. This is another installation in Milan Fluxia Gallery recently of this same piece. An alabaster tongue, big one. And these are works that now follow are basically etchings on a material called alu dibond. I will just scroll through them because they're derived from an idea of a line on a surface, basically. I made a wrong promise. This is a big work on a drawing on bourrette silk. So for this exhibition, I made up like kind of a cabinet in the upper floor, and this is one of the works I made. Like this is the one connected to Rage, and the other one I showed at Francesca Pierce is a long curtain connected to the work SOTSB, the School of the Seven Bells. These are details. You can see there's like kind of or all of these things like the text fragments split it up in letters and drawings. These are the works I was speaking of. So this is called Pleasure, this is called Horizon, and this is Contract, because the contract is one of the things that influence the text pieces in Rage, because the contract interests me as one of the things that is made and that is described by a law language over and over, that is described in literature in terms of contracts that are made in between two people over and over, and then there are all the contracts beyond law that interest me a lot. And then there is this is like the same technique in a way, but it's on photographic paper, and it is like the photographic surface is melted with acrylic, and then it becomes like a painterly gesture. So it folds up in blue, yellow, and white, basically. These is the installation here, a backside drawing of one work I also showed at Francesca Pierce, which is called, or I made in New Jersey in Basel, which is called Sympathy for the Export. So it was made in Switzerland. And this is one small sculpture that's a mixture in between a cobra and a toothbrush. So this is one of the sculptures in the Rage complex. So you can hardly see. You see something? Mm-hmm. Oh. Jumps. It's called Crows. A drawing of Chuck Roll. To go back again. Oh, what's happening now? Oh my god. Yeah. It's strange. It does strange things. Oh, I'm sorry for this. Somehow it does strange things. So these are all drawings like I made within the Rage complex. And this is the other curtain I spoke of. It's also made on bourrette, and it's the curtain I made for the show at Francesca Pierce, which contains like letters of the performers of School of the Seven Bells and so on. I'm really sorry for this. This was the Rage piece I showed at Francesca Pierce, and this is one of the images of SOTSB, the School of the Seven Bells. So I will skip this presentation now.
Just relaunch the PDF.
Yeah. Now I will show you now an excerpt of the School of the Seven Bells performance piece. It's kind of an archive, so yeah. Let's look at this first. And this was shown in my last year's exhibition in Porticus as one of the films that were running there. It was shot in the gallery space before the exhibition. I'll stop here for a second. I would like to introduce the show and show another excerpt of a video we did, like another film with the School of the Seven Bells. But first I wanted to say about this performance that it was made in 2012 for my graduation show, basically, and I worked with 15 people on it. I went to Naples before to find out about, like in Naples there is a lot of pickpocketing going on. Pickpocketing as a threat of is also a lot of the threat of like the bourgeoisie in a way. So the name School of the Seven Bells derives from a myth that was brought up by the CIA that there exists a school of pickpockets to give the pickpockets that are basically invisible a face or something. So there was like there's a lot of pickpocketing going on and everybody's like kind of aware of it, but it had to have a face to be an enemy. So this is why I chose the name, basically. This was School of the Seven Bells fourth of at least three, so it was one over kind of the edition of it. When I went to Naples, I thought I must find a pickpocket magician that's able to teach us the movements, because all of these movements derive from pickpocket movements, constellations, observations, once the target, once the object. So I went to Naples to find this one pickpocket guy who was, but then it ended up to be a bit more of another research, and there was a lot of talk in Naples about structures of working structures of the mafia that is very present in terms of an employer in Naples. And so if the number of performers in this piece derives from a fact, a statistic that in Naples the suicide rate is very low because this underground network of the mafia that has like these corrupt structures and very violent structures towards it is also making sure that every person is like inflicted with a net of at least 5 people. So the suicide rate is very low because he is in relation to someone else always. Also, if it's like a relation that brings him to like that is not a good one, or that like my English is a bit limited in explaining this. But then I went back to Frankfurt and we built this piece, and it was more like that we realized in this. We had a week of doing it, and after a week there were so many movements already that there was no pickpocket coming or teacher or something. So we didn't need this anymore because it developed a kind of own language. Everybody like had a totally different approach and totally different deal with his body or with how he did the movements. And there are 2 basic figures, like the circle and the line in this piece, not like in the Raj, it's more the diagonal, that's like a compositional element. And so we did this piece towards the exhibition, and then when people looked at it afterwards, it was like, okay, you did a dance piece in 4 days, that's great. And I was like, why a dance piece? And then I realized that with this way of working, or this way of composing images, it comes to slip in between this area of dance or performative practice, and I come totally from a visual arts background. So then we showed this piece, and it developed and changed into an improvised version. But this, what you saw, is like the original, let's say, score that's verbally given. So the School of the 7 Bells is also the theme of this movie. I will skip this to a later point. Oh no. What?
You're in preview.
So it's preview mode. Sorry for this. So the School of the Seven Bells basically deals with something that is invisible and showing it off. And all of the movements are very hold back and clandestine. The movie we shot, the second one, was shot in Paris and Frankfurt with all of these 15 people. And this, of course, also derives from a circling in the city, like also from a practice of work of the camera woman I work with. Yeah, if you have any questions to this later on, we can go. So this was like, the exhibition was called Parade. The School of the Seven Bells was one work. I showed 3 performance works in there of the series of performance. One is called AA, which basically deals with the movement of a tiger in relation with music and sound. And then Aqualeo, first of at least 2, which is a parade that is not moving. And the School of the Seven Bells, all in one like exhibition format. So I had to find a way to deal with this. I stretched it from performance over 4 days to 1 day to something that was going on as a loop, like the whole exhibition was a loop of a composition of music, 3 videos screened, and some drawings that were shown in the upper floor that were drawings, recent drawings to the School of the Seven Bells and old drawings of mine. So I will just show you a few slides and we can talk later if you're interested. So this was a ceiling drawing I made for this exhibition. So the whole ceiling was a painting. It was basically blown up drawings of mine and contains movement structures. This like movement structure that you can see, this is a burn mark that we burned in with Anzündblitze. I don't know, some of you speak German, I don't know the English, but to basically to blow up fireworks. So this is this is what derives from it. And then yeah. What else? I don't know. Okay. Then there's the figure of the deliverer occurring the first time there, speaking with a cat, dressed in Adidas. So this was kind of how this looked like. The screenings, you see basically what it's about. So this was the School of the Seven Bells guides, the movie you saw right now. And this was a presentation of a slideshow that I did for Aqualeo, the performance piece that is a parade that is not moving, that was shot before. I was interested in the rhythm of the, like that the photographer chose while photographing the performance piece while it was performed. So there are more images of longer pieces in the performance piece and different angles because she was moving. This is basically the parade slideshow, some images that I took out to show you, because it gets kind of an overview. So while this was shot, there were other people performing. In the end, it was only the girls performing, because I worked with some of the people I worked with before in the School of the Seven Bells, and some of them are bouncers in a club that is called Robert Johnson in Frankfurt. It's kind of a thing for techno music. Don't know if you know it here, but basically it's built on Aqualeo as code language for yes and no at the door, so in between the bouncers. I will read out this text that Lea Welsch wrote for me. It's unpublished, but I think this is she wrote a chapter about Aqualeo, which is called Logiken der Grenzziehung, and it's about basically about systems. And yeah, es gibt die Figur des Innen und Außen. It's in German. I hope you understand. Yeah. Jedes System hat seine eigenen Gesetze. Entweder sind die Gesetze bekannt oder sie werden sich im Konflikt erarbeitet. Wissen gegen Erfahrung. Der Eintritt in etwas Verschobenes, Systeme leben von Prozessen, feststehenden Entitäten, von Akteuren, vom Zwischenspielen. Systeme sind eingelassen in Dimensionen von Raum und Zeit. Systeme sind, dadurch, dass sie als solche bezeichnet werden, messbar, skalierbar, beschreibbar, steuerbar, zerstreubar. Systeme haben nicht nur Gesetze, sie generieren auch welche. Vielleicht messbar auf einer Achse, gleichzeitig wird das geformt, der dahinterliegende Satz verallgemeinert sich, findet Anwendung. Die Bildung von Gesetzen folgt einer internen Logik, die ihren Anknüpfungspunkt jedoch in außenliegenden, vorgelagerten, unerschließbaren, unhintergehbaren, im Wissen, im Sinn, im Inhalt hat. Zäsuren und Brüche stören, ihre Produktivität ist nachträglich. Das Nachtleben hat seine eigenen Gesetze. Teil davon ist zweifelsohne die Einlasspolitik an der Tür eines Clubs. Wer reinkommt und wer nicht, wird nach Regeln entschieden, die sich als reflektiv gegenüber Vorurteilen erweisen wollen, aber in ihrem Vollzug auf die subjektive Praxis der Selektiererin verwiesen ist. There's nothing written. Diese Praxis ist abhängig von Parametern, die sich nur schwer bestimmen lassen. Vielleicht sind sie gar nicht, zumindest aber nur nachträglich zugänglich. Was im konkreten Moment entscheidet, sind Blicke, Gesten, Eindrücke, die getauscht werden. Nicht so sehr das Gesagte, das überträgt. Maybe this sentence. In Aqualeo tritt der Raum als Ort einer Logik hervor. Aqualeo stellt Bilder einer Parade, die sich nicht bewegt. Basically, I didn't want to talk so much about it myself because, yeah, it's basically what is the piece built of, this and the jockeys. And Red Bull and cigarettes. These are stills out of the School of the Seven Bells. These are all School of the Seven Bells images, but movie, the archive, and the original live performance piece. And the space, how it looked after all the performance series were done. So there's a ballet bar and one line where the tiger's moving back and forth. And these are drawings that derive from the body of work around School of the Seven Bells. So this is kind of a poem I wrote. Was tun, Freund, wenn wir uns noch nichts getan haben, is one of the sentences that was over and over in our discussion. These are etchings I did. One is called Summer Houses, and this one is called Leda. And a sculpture piece which is called Don't Mond, that also reflects on the School of the Seven Bells in terms of its appearance, and it's of alabaster and aluminium, and there you can see the sticks that we hand over to each other. The installation view is like Pilar Curias. So this is kind of one of the last images. It's a sketch I made for the Bourrette silk drawing, which is called For Permanent Parade. And I chose the title because for is always, if you put something for something, you are already in distance towards it, and I would go for a permanent parade. And this is what I want to end my lecture with. It's out of the Illuminations for Parade, which I found like a year after now when I was in Paris reading Rimbaud again. On the most violent paradise of a Madame Grimace, way beyond your fears and other theatrical buffooneers. In improvised costumes of nightmarish taste, they play romances, tragedies of bandits and demigods, spiritual as their tales and religions never were. Chinese Hottentots, Bohemians, fools, hyenas, molochs, old madnesses, sinister demons, mingling popular homely turns with bestial poses and caresses. They're ready for new pieces and sweet little songs. Master jugglers, they perform people, transform people and places, and reveal magnetic stagecraft. Eyes inflamed, blood sings, bones thicken, tears and trickles of rouge stream down. Their raillery and their terror lasts a moment or a month entire. I alone hold the key to this savage parade. So, thank you so much. If there are any questions,